Hey, really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain while I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bill, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bill, I'm the best rest till into the next world.
And welcome into week 16 of the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast and live stream. My name is Bradley Stalder. For those who are new, you can follow me on Twitter at FFStalder, but also you can hit that subscribe button. If you're new and you like the content, really look forward to talking with y'all tonight. And we've already got some in the chat. Serendipity Trick Shots, giving the wave, and Ryan N. I don't know. There's a capital N there, Ryan. I always get thrown off by that. Nevertheless, Serendipity Trick Shots, nice intro song. Yeah. A producer, producer Gabe Gehring put that together for me. So yeah, it's pretty sick for sure. Make sure you're checking him out. I'll see if I can find his Twitter later. But there we go. So, yeah, lots of fun going into week 16. Some of y'all have advanced into your next round. I'll tell you what, I lost in the first round of my 32-team league by a total of like 0.34 points. It was disastrous. It was like 147.24 to 146.86 or something like that. It was outrageous. All I needed was one assisted tackle from one of my IDP players. So yeah, that's the heartbreak. The fantasy heartbreak is real. None of my Best Ball Mania 3 teams made it through. There were a couple that were pretty close, like off by a couple points. We will get them next year for sure. But I have two alive in the Pomeranian Superflex, a little bit smaller tournament, but that's alive. And then I'm also third out of 91 in there's an FF Face-Off Best Ball tournament as well. And I think I'm pretty comfortably in third. It's just a matter of, am I going to be second in that one as well? This week for the Fantasy Pros Accuracy Rankings contest, I ended up finishing, what was it? 16th or 17th. Let me see if it'll load eventually for me. Yeah. 19th at tight ends this week and 6th at IDP. QQ with the praise about the Packers defense. Yeah, I mean, well, they were facing Baker Mayfield and you knew there were going to be some turnovers there and it was going to be slower paced. And you wondered if the Rams were going to make some mistakes trying to outfox the Packers. But nevertheless, the Packers are a superior team, even though they've had their struggles this year for sure. So, that's what I have to say about that. Let me see if I can move. There we go. Y'all can see my Bakhtiari, Lazard, and then Robert Tonyan jersey in the back. But there we go. Okay. We got some questions in the chat. Feel free to throw your comments or questions in the chat. I love answering your questions and start sits. I did one update of my rankings today. I'm going to have to do some regular updates as well. So I'll be speaking about those in the rankings. If they end up being in the top like 70 or so of their position, I'll be able to talk about them. But I didn't do some deep cuts this week, at least as of yet. I'll be able to do those later on in the week. So a programming note, a few things about this week's schedule before I start answering questions. So throw your questions in the chat, and then when I'm done, I'll start answering them. I already see some coming in from Sam and Ryan and Jose. So a few programming notes. One is tomorrow is Thursday. I'm going to be writing my article, but I'm also going to be doing another live stream for Stardom Siddums. So y'all can get in on that before the holiday, the Christmas this weekend. My family celebrates Christmas, so that's what we'll be doing on Saturday and Sunday. Well, Saturday night and then Sunday as well. So I want to give as much forward content as possible. So I don't know if y'all saw on my YouTube channel, I posted like 90 videos for y'all this week. So if you do not turn on your notifications until the off season, okay? Because you will just get annoyed, just get the crap annoyed out of you if you turn on your notifications right now. So wait to turn on the notifications later on until the off season. I'm going to be posting a lot of content tonight, tomorrow, and then even Friday as well. On Thursday, I think tomorrow, Brian Drake and I are also going to do a Twitter live. I've never done one of those. It's going to be an interesting attempt at new content for me, but Brian is out of PFF, and he and I do Top Prop Fantasy together as well, like separately, but also together. So it's going to be a collab. So tune in, be following my Twitter at FF Stalder for the time tomorrow, where we're going to go live. But the Twitter Spaces is what it's called. So check that out. And Brian and I will be breaking down some of the most important matchups and players. And it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be something new for me. I'm usually on the YouTube doing it live, on the Twitch as well. But here we are going to try something new. I'm not that old of a dog. I can try some new tricks. A couple other programming notes. Friday, I'm going to be putting out, I'm going to be doing a live stream as well. Then Saturday, there's supposed to be a snowstorm like Friday and Saturday here in Michigan, and I'm supposed to travel down to Cleveland, Ohio. So hopefully, we're going to get some more content out for you. It's going to be a little lighter on Saturday evening. And then, of course, Christmas morning as well. So, celebrate with your families or ignore my channel, whatever it is. You don't have to be looking. I won't be doing a lot of updates until probably, Monday and following after Saturday. So, at that point, I would wish you good luck. Hopefully all of those would be updated. Plus the Fantasy Pros Actually Rankings contest is going to be most, the Fantasy Pros Actually Rankings contest submissions are due Saturday at 1 p.m. So that's about the range at which I would be stopping giving advice at that point. I mean, maybe if you want to send comment on some of the videos, I'll probably be able to, talk about some of the Sunday games like the Tampa Bay Arizona game, or I think that's going to be the big one for us here, programming wise. Saturday is going to be a big day, lots of games. In fact, we've got the 1 o'clocks. I think there are 11 games that are happening on Saturday. So check that out. And there we go. What else? Oh yeah, the 1 o'clock game on Sunday is Green Bay versus at Miami as well. So there we go. It's going to be a busy week, but I thank everyone. We officially eclipsed 550 subscribers for the channel. It's just been growing, and I'm really, really thankful for all y'all participating and growing in community, asking your questions, going back and forth, trying to challenge my thoughts and dig a little deeper. Like, this is what it's all about, is iron sharpening iron, helping us make the best decisions possible, bringing new perspectives to these conversations, and bringing new statistics or a new way in which to think about a particular player. So I'm open to, I'll, at this point, it's Wednesday, right? And there's a lot of changes that can happen between now and later. So I really encourage you, like, if something seems like, I wonder if he's considered this, it's possible that I hadn't. And that's why we have these conversations as well, to continue to be better at this game that we so much have invested in and have a lot of fun with. So, all right, let's keep going with some of the questions here. Serendipity trick shots. I can start 2. Amari Cooper, Hollywood Brown, DJ Moore, Zay Jones. Who do I pick? Okay, so a couple thoughts on each of these players. Amari Cooper is still dealing with this hip injury. He has been playing the last few weeks, and he's been getting the target share. But my concern is that this is going to be arguably the coldest game of the year. The wind is going to be up to 60 miles an hour in Cleveland, Ohio. It's going to be really, really nasty. So I don't want to be starting Amari Cooper if I can help it. Like, could any player have one big chunk play? Sure. But with how Amari Cooper has played as of late and the weather, you are downgrading a lot of these New Orleans and Cleveland pass catchers. So some of the rushers, you want to bump up, but Nick Chubb has been not practicing the last couple days. So we have to monitor the Nick Chubb injury. That might mean a lot of Kareem Hunt and maybe some deep shots on D'Ernest Johnson. Wouldn't that be wild if D'Ernest Johnson was your week 16 hero? um, but Amari Cooper is not one that I'm going out of my way to target. He's been wide receiver 44 or worse each of the last 3 weeks, even though he's had 6 targets in each of those games. So I'm not looking to start Amari Cooper if I can help it. Hollywood Brown, you're like, okay, well, Hollywood Brown, he's got to be doing okay, right? But here's the thing. He gets Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay has been hit or miss this year with the secondaries. But Marquise Brown has had 8 targets each of the last 3 weeks. And he's finished no better than wide receiver 52 during that time. Wide receiver 52. And you're like, okay, but there's a nice pass blocking advantage that Arizona has. I don't think that matters in this game. I don't think that matters for Hollywood Brown because who's his quarterback this week? It's not Kyler Murray. It's not Colt McCoy. It's Trace McSorley. And look, I love Trace McSorley, the TikTok sensation himself. Like, if you don't know the Trace McSorley song, maybe I can find it and look it up for you while I'm rambling here. But Trace McSorley doesn't have a 50% completion percentage this year when he's passed the ball. I think he's 18 for 39 for 250 yards and 1 touchdown. And I think he has 3 picks on the season. So he's not a quarterback that I'm going out of my way to start. So yeah, this is not, and you are down around significantly. Not excited about Hollywood Brown starting. DJ Moore, I want in on DJ Moore this week, not because of Sam Darnold. Okay, let's just clear that up. It's not Sam Darnold is the reason. It's the matchup is the reason that I want to be in on DJ Moore. He's a back end wide receiver 2 for me, but he's finished as the wide receiver 13 or better each of the last 2 weeks. And we've seen ceiling games from DJ Moore against generous secondaries, right? We've seen the wide receiver 13 from Pittsburgh, wide receiver 5 from Atlanta. He was able to torch Tampa Bay as the wide receiver 8. Even the Giants, wide receiver 28, he didn't disappoint against you. And the Detroit Lions are very good at stopping the run as of late, but they are not very good at stopping the pass. They're one of the most generous fantasy point givers for opposing wide receivers. They're extremely positive matchup. So if I'm banking on a wide receiver to hit this week for Carolina, right, it's going to be DJ Moore, the former first-round pick of the Panthers. So I am in on DJ Moore this week, and same with Zay Jones. I mean, how can you be out on Zay Jones? I know it's a tough matchup against the Jets, but he just gets so many targets. And Trevor Lawrence is playing some of the best football of his NFL career, if not the best football of his 2-year career. Over the last few games, he's been the PFF's second best graded quarterback. So Zay Jones, DJ Moore, if I'm picking 2 of those, that's where I'm going. And I think I found the video. So give me 1 second as I get it going. I hope my it might get flagged for whatever. So here we go. You all bear with me. You can look it up yourselves, but this is the Trace McSorley song by Matty Fresh. It's just so much fun. I'm glad I was able to share that with you. Hope y'all enjoyed that too. If you want to watch more of it, you can go look up the Trace McSorley song yourself. It is was one of the biggest trending TikTok songs a couple years ago when McSorley played for Baltimore for a little bit and had some a couple nice plays. So look, I'm a fan of the person and the story of Trace McSorley. But let's be real. He's not going to be a fantasy ascender for your Marquise Browns or your Hollywood Browns or your DeAndre Hopkins. It's not something that I'm counting on. Ryan's asking Goddard or Dalton Schultz. Let me pull up my tight end rankings. And this is one of those where we have to suss it out a little bit because they're pretty close. And Dalton Schultz right now is my tight end 5 on the week. He is the consensus tight end 5, and he's had a really up and down pattern as of late. So since week 10, we've seen Dalton Schultz like alternate boom bust weeks, and that's not predictive. Let's not be cute about it, but it is something fun to talk about. In week 10, he was the tight end 3. In week 11, tight end 21. Week 12, tight end 1. Week 13, tight end 19, week 14, tight end 5, and week 15, tight end 38. Some would say he's due based on the pattern. I'm not banking on that, but you have to like the amount of targets that he's getting pretty consistently. 4, 5, 6, 7. We even saw 10 targets in week 14 against Houston and against Philadelphia. You have to wonder if the secondary is going to be pretty tough and that instead Dak Prescott's going to be looking for Dalton Schultz. Noah Brown has been dealing with an injury. He's questionable right now. I think that Noah Brown plays, but this is something worth monitoring as well. If any of the wide receivers miss, it's going to be Goddard time, or Schultz time, I should say. The only reason I'm a little lower on Goddard, I have him at the tight end 8, but you're like, well, tight end 8, yeah. The consensus right now on Fantasy Pros is tight end 21. And if we look at what Dallas Goedert was doing before the injury, right, he had 3 straight games of tight end 11 or better. And in fact, all but one game he had finished as the tight end 13 or better. You do have to wonder if he's going to get limited snaps. And I think that's a valid concern. But we're going into the fantasy playoffs. We're going for it all. And I think if there's a tight end who has the highest upside, it's going to be Dallas Goedert. Even though Dallas doesn't give up a lot of fantasy points to opposing tight ends, Dallas Goedert is that high upside tight end. I think it's matchup dependent. If you're projected to lose by a lot, I think Dallas Goedert gives you access to a ceiling that Dalton Schultz doesn't. But if you just need like 8 to 10 points and half PPR, I think Dalton Schultz is your best bet to get that. It's just that there's more risk with Dallas Goedert. So that's how I'm doing this risk assessment with the Goedert versus Schultz. I think it depends on how close you are in your matchup. Sam Bowman, we've got some Brandon Cooks talk. So let's talk some Brandon Cooks. Yes, according to Sam, he was a full participant today, plays an average Titans secondary. They're not average. The Titans secondary, that's very kind of you to say, but I would not consider them to be average. They are one of the worst best matchups, but worst secondaries in the NFL when it comes to fewest fantasy points given up. They give up a ton of fantasy points this week. He's asking if he's a start sit, and I think he's hard to trust is the problem. Right. It's a really nice matchup, but if you look at what Brandon Cooks had been doing before his calf injury, I believe it was a calf injury. He practiced in full on Wednesday. There was only one game this year where Brandon Cooks finished as a top 24 wide receiver. And that was back in week 4 against the Chargers, where he went 7 for 57 and a touchdown and 7 targets. So I don't have a lot of confidence in Brandon Cooks. If you need a desperation flex play, could he hit? Sure. this is a positive matchup. This is a player who is frankly underrated, and he's projected to have the 38th most fantasy points among wide receivers per Fantasy Pros. But it doesn't give me a lot of confidence with what he had done previously, with how dysfunctional this offense is. You have to remember the Houston Texans just lost Dameon Pierce for the season, their lead running back, the rookie sensation. He had been playing very, very well for most of the season. So with lack of production, even with a good matchup, like, you might have to start Brandon Cooks, but it doesn't make you feel good. And if he hits, like, all right, like, that was fine. But Brandon Cooks is not someone that I'm going out and saying, you know what, I need to start him. This is not a Mike Williams situation from a couple weeks ago when I said you need to be starting Mike Williams because he's probably better than what else you have. It's not that case with Brandon Cooks. He is a reluctant start for me this week because of the matchup and because really there's no one else on Houston. What, Chris Moore? Yikes. Yeah, I mean, even Nico Collins was out targeting Brandon Cooks the last few games before Cooks' injury. So I'm a reluctant start, but it's not with a, I'm not, it's a reluctant start, but not with much endorsement there, Sam. Jose's asking, what do you think about Hopkins this week? Well, I don't think the consensus has really adjusted very well to DeAndre Hopkins. Right now, Hopkins is the consensus wide receiver 13, but he has finished as the wide receiver 34 or worse each of the last 2 weeks against New England and Denver. He had 11 targets in both games. He had 7 receptions in both games. He's getting the volume. It's just a matter of scoring. The question is, how many scores do you think that the Arizona Cardinals are going to score? How many touchdowns do you think they're going to score? Okay. If you say 1 or 2 touchdowns with Trace McSorley, how many are going to be rushing scores that are James Conner rushing scores? I'm waiting. It's going to be James Conner day. That's how I'm viewing it. Like, I know you're thinking to yourself, well, like, oh, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are pretty tough against the run. James Conner, it doesn't matter. He's been tearing it up lately. Doesn't matter the matchup. He's been getting massive amounts of volume. All he needs is a couple plays and 1 goal line conversion to make your day. So I think this is, just James Conner. And looking at what the line is, I mean, it's Tampa Bay minus 7.5 as away favorites. The over-under is 39.5 for this game. Yikes. So I don't think that there's a lot to love about DeAndre Hopkins, like back end wide receiver 2. Like, I find it hard for you to bench DeAndre Hopkins, but you might have to bench DeAndre Hopkins this week with Trace McSorley throwing the ball, right? As I said earlier, McSorley hasn't completed even 50% of his passes on the season. And I don't expect that to really change with an Arizona offensive line that's not very good at defending the pass, and Hopkins having struggled as of late. So that's what I think, Jose. All right, for those who are new and you like my content, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. It really does help the channel, and I'm grateful for everyone who is joining for the first time. Make sure you throw in your comments or chats or start-sit decisions in the chat, and I'll do my best to get through as many as I can. Ryan, should I play any of these players over Lamb? DJ Moore, ETN, Dylan, Judy, or Rashad White? I've been a little concerned about CD Lamb this week just because of the matchup, but this is a player who finished as the wide receiver 30 last time that he played Philadelphia. He did get 10 targets in that game. He went 5 for 68, didn't get a touchdown. But if you get a touchdown, you fall into that like wide receiver, mid wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 1 range. And I think that's the consensus for Lamb is wide receiver 9. So I think that you're starting Lamb. This is going to be one of those games where, it's Philadelphia traveling to Dallas. The over-under is 47.5, which is one of the highest on the week. We've got the Chargers and Colts at 46. We've got the Packers and Dolphins at 49.5. And looking the rest of the way, the Giants and Vikings are at 48. The Seahawks and Chiefs are at 49. But everyone else is like under 44. So this is, one of those games where, you've got to play the players that have these high scoring, are going to be involved in the possible shootout. Like even this Lions-Panthers game, the over-under is 43.5. Okay. Whereas like ETN gets the New York Jets, and the over-under is 37.5. Like the opportunity for Travis Etienne to score is at least higher than maybe some of the other running backs. But if this is a full PPR, give me CD Lamb. If it's like standard league, if it's a standard league, give me ETN. I think ETN is more likely to score a touchdown than CD Lamb, but Lamb is probably going to get more receptions and more yards than ETN sans a touchdown. So, and I'm not focusing on AJ Dillon, Jerry Jeudy. I'm not sure if Cortland Sutton is going to be back. That's a player that we're monitoring right now. I think he's questionable. And Rachaad White is still splitting carries with Leonard Fournette. So that's how I would still play Lamb over those players. Rams or Patriots D. Yeah, I've got my DST rankings updated. So let me talk through either of these. The Patriots I have at 16, and the Rams I have at 12. So I would go with the Rams there against the Denver Broncos. Chanks, appreciate you jumping in from YouTube. Thanks so much. How are Walker and ETN's matchups? That's a good question. So let me pull up the matchup data here. In the meantime, you have to be encouraged by what Travis Etienne did last week, right? He got over 120 total yards. He did have his 3 targets. And I don't think that the fantasy finish for Travis Etienne matched what he actually did on the field. He finished as, I think, the running back 22 or 23. And he also finished with over 100 rushing yards, but didn't get the touchdown. So let's take a look at some of the run blocking matchups for Walker here. The Seattle offensive line has a negative 33% disadvantage. So that means that the Kansas City Chiefs have a 33% advantage defensive line-wise over the run blocking of Seattle. So that's not a positive matchup for Kenneth Walker. But then Travis Etienne with Jacksonville, negative 62%. So who has the worst matchup per PFF run block wise? Travis Etienne by far. This doesn't preclude, though, Etienne from also getting a significant amount of work. Both Walker and Etienne, I expect to get full workloads. If I'm ranking them right now, let me pull up the rankings so I can make sure that I'm speaking to that. But right now it's Etienne at 17, Walker at 18. Yeah, and I'm not beholden to that. It's just that Kenneth Walker right now he did miss practice on Wednesday due to the ankle injury, and he's missed practices in back-to-back games. I think we're going to monitor Walker. If he gets in a limited practice at least on Thursday, I think we're going to go with Walker. But if he misses Thursday's practice as well, 3 straight missed practices for Kenneth Walker, that's going to be a really, really problematic, because that Thursday practice is actually kind of like a Friday practice, because the game for the Seahawks is on Saturday at 1:00. So we have to bump those up a little bit. So we have to pay attention, I think, to the practice reports as we get closer, Ryan. That's how I'm handling this right now. QQ from YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. Thinking of starting 3 running backs this week. One of them out of the flex. Which of the 4 would be the ones we start? Dalvin Cook, Mostert, Pacheco, and Swift. Well, let's look at the running back rankings again. Dalvin Cook right now gets the New York Giants, which is a positive matchup for him. Raheem Mostert, where did Mostert end up landing? Gets Green Bay, and Green Bay is one of the most generous matchups versus opposing running backs. Mostert finishes the running back 13 last week, 17 for 136, did not get a touchdown. But, with a game that we anticipate could very much be a shootout. I mean, this Miami Green Bay game, the highest over under on the week, 49.5. So you're starting Mostert this week. I don't even think that it matters if Jeff Wilson is active or not. Like, Raheem Mostert is going to get the work. I think you're not putting a lot of trust or faith into Jeff Wilson at this point. And then Isaiah Pacheco gets Seattle, which is an extremely positive matchup. DeAndre Swift gets Carolina. I right now have Pacheco over Swift. So if I'm starting them, I'm going Dalvin Cook, Raheem Mostert, Pacheco, and Swift. Jayers, Minshew or Goff? That's a good question. Because Gardner Minshew is in line to start if Jalen Hurts does not go. And Jalen Hurts has not practiced at all this week. He is officially questionable. I know that the Eagles are playing a little bit coy with Hurts coming up. Like, he's uncertain to play. The Nick Sirianni has said that he's not going to be willing to rule him out at this point. Like, come on now. Let's stop playing coy. It's going to be Gardner Minshew. And you have to like some of the things that Gardner Minshew has done, in the past. Let's talk about Gardner Minshew for a second. So last year, Gardner Minshew got a couple spot starts. In week 13 against the New York Jets in 2021, he went 20 of 25. He threw 2 touchdowns and rushed the ball 4 times for 11 yards, 18.7 fantasy points. You'll take that. Dallas, week 18. Remember, they sat all their starters. So there was no Devonta Smith. There was no Dallas Goedert in this game. And Gardner Minshew went 19 of 33 for 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick, 5 rushes for 10 yards. So he's going to carry the ball a little bit. But that was with the Eagles without Dallas Goedert and without A.J. Brown, of course, for both games. Now let's flip back all the way to 2019 and 2020 when he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? You saw 5 straight games at the beginning of his career as a rookie where he finished with at least 16 fantasy points, and then he had 1 dud against New Orleans, and then back to 21 and 24 fantasy points. And then he finished the year with 3 straight games with nearly 15 fantasy points in each of those games. That was his rookie season, Gardner Minshew's rookie year, where he played 14 games and finishes I believe the quarterback 22 that year in 14 games. His touchdown to interception ratio 21-6. He had 67 rush attempts for 344 yards. So he does move around a little bit in the pocket. And then in 2020, he you have to remember in 2020, that week 1, that was a massive upset of the Colts. 19 completions, 20 attempts, 95% completion percentage. He had 3 touchdown passes in that game. And then he went on a tear through weeks 2 through 7, at least 18 fantasy points in 5 of those 6 games. And in 5 of those 6 games, at least 40 pass attempts. And in 4 of those games, he had at least 275 passing yards. So there's passing capability. There's accuracy capability. There's rushing capability. He is like a good backup quarterback. And we shouldn't be afraid to be playing Gardner Minshew as like a high-end quarterback too. Now that begs the question, well, if he's a high-end quarterback too, are we going to start him or are we going to start Goff? And I'd rather, I know this sounds bad, but I'd rather start Minshew in a dome than risk the weather in Carolina, right? Jared Goff's home road splits are stark. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I've seen them passed around the Twitter sphere. If you want to check it out, maybe I can stall for time and see. But ultimately, the biggest concern that we have to have is that Jared Goff is going to play outdoors against the Carolina Panthers, who are, they have some strong spots, some weak spots on their defense, but they're competing for a division title, as crazy as that sounds. So let me see if we can find here the home road splits for Jared Goff. Okay. Yes, the home road splits for Jared Goff, and this is as of 1 day ago. Jared Goff at home, 277 pass yards per game. He has 20 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. On the road, he averages 227 pass yards per game. He only has 2 passing touchdowns, and he has 4 interceptions. Just very stark differences. And I know that Carolina isn't a great isn't a bad matchup. It isn't a great matchup, but him playing on the road, that's major, major concerns. And I'd rather trust, the weapons of the Philadelphia Eagles than the weapons of the Detroit Lions. I know, right? Give me A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Miles Sanders over Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brock Wright, DJ Chark / Jameson Williams, and DeAndre Swift with like a battering ram that is Jamal Williams. Like, give me that type of offense. Plus, if we're looking at the over-unders, Philadelphia, Dallas, 47.5 is the over-under, whereas the Detroit game is 43.5. Okay. So if I'm looking at what kind of boom potential is there, I think the boom potential is with Minshew, better weapons, better pizza, Papa John's, right? So let's go Gardner Minshew here over Goff. There's a spicy take. Maybe it's not that spicy, but let's go spicy take. Gardner Minshew over Jared Goff this week. Serendipity trick shots, dude, let's go. We're at like 400, like barely any time ago, it seems. Congrats on the subs. Yeah, so if y'all are new and you like the content that I'm sharing with you, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you feel like you're getting better at fantasy and learning a little bit more, and our conversations are forcing you to think a little bit deeper about how matchups work, the road splits, offering a new perspective. If you like that, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. It does help the channel. And right now, as Serendipity Trick Shots said, like, it was barely 400 any time ago, and now we're up to over 550 subscriptions on the YouTube channel. That way, like, more people get to see this and more people get to engage with it. And that's what I want to get to, is creating even more of a community as we've seen grow over the last month. I think I've had almost 200 subscriptions in the last 28 days. So I really appreciate y'all. It is not too late to jump on and into this community. This space is not too saturated, right? Some people offer different perspectives, and I'm here to help and make y'all better fantasy players, and help you think through your matchups. Ryan's asking, do I like Daniel Jones this week? Right now, Daniel Jones is my quarterback 11. Okay. And I have him ahead of Gardner Minshew and Jared Goff, but he's behind the Dak Prescotts and Kirk Cousins of the world. Daniel Jones, you start your quarterbacks against Minnesota. I know we were burned on Matt Ryan last week. I know we were burned, but I think that was coaching. If you noticed in the game log, Zach Moss got over 20 carries in this game. When you were up 33-0, there is no urgency for you to throw the ball. But if you're competitive, if you're going back and forth, yeah, you are. And I think this Giants-Minnesota game is going to be very competitive. Minnesota gives up like the most receiving yards to wide receivers in the NFL. And the Giants, they may not boast these extremely talented wide receivers, but Darius Slayton has a really good matchup. And I think he's a wide receiver that you should consider bumping up in your rankings. Right now, Slayton is the consensus wide receiver 31. I have him at 31, but I think I want to move him up a little bit. Yeah, he's been cold against Philadelphia, and he did get 7 targets against Washington week 15. He's finished as the wide receiver 58 each of the last 2 weeks. But before that, he had finished as the wide receiver 24 or better in 4 of the last 6 games. So there is some optimism for a player like Darius Slayton who can hit deep plays, who has a high average depth of target historically, and who is probably the best wide receiver on his team at this point, with Wan'Dale Robinson recovering from the ACL. Isaiah Hodgins has been a nice story. So if you're in like a 16 or 20 team league, Isaiah Hodgins is going to be a nice pickup. But Kenny Golladay hasn't done much. As I mentioned, Wan'Dale is on the IR. So Daniel Jones is going to get a lot done with his legs. And this was one of my very interesting overs that I took for Prize Picks, was overs on Daniel Jones rushing yards. I don't remember the exact prop, but he has 583 rushing yards on the season. And it's just a floor that Jones provides every week, right? 25 rushing yards in 3 of the last 4 weeks, 4 of the last 5. And it seems like he just gets sprinkling of at least 20 yards in each game. But we've seen a 107 rushing yard game against Jacksonville. So if Minnesota is giving him run lanes, Minnesota does bottle up running backs really well. But if you've got a mobile quarterback who's moving around in the pocket and keeping the defense honest, right, and not sure if they're going to hand off to Saquon Barkley, that is an advantage for Daniel Jones. So I wonder if he's going to get more of like the 40, 50, 60 yards rushing this week instead of the 20 or 30 that he's been getting the last couple of weeks. I do like Daniel Jones in this matchup. There's a lot of boom potential. And the Giants-Minnesota game is an over-under of 48. So one of the higher ones for the week. I think you're starting Daniel Jones in your Superflex leagues for sure. And he is a quarterback streaming option. Yosidolphin 10 flex position Devonta Smith or Ramondre Stevenson in the flex. If it's PPR, I think I'm going I think either way I'm going to go with Stevenson. I know he's questionable for this week, but he played through an ankle injury. At least he was only limited, this Wednesday practice. But if you look at what Ramondre Stevenson has done this season, I mean, just an absolute baller. Dating back to week 3, running back 8, running back 14 in week 5, running back 2 in week 6, running back 6 in week 7, 10, 11, 16, 14, 22. And then last week against Vegas, I bumped him up. I was higher than consensus by like 3 or 4 spots. Running back 4, 172 rushing yards and the touchdown. He had 2 receptions in that game, 24 fantasy points for Ramondre Stevenson. So I'm going Ramondre Stevenson. This Dallas secondary is really hit or miss. Sometimes they can lock down because they're getting pressure from the front 7. But sometimes they're just really, really vulnerable. So could Devonta Smith have a big game? I think that is within the range of outcomes. But Ramondre Stevenson, I think, is the better play here. Brian Pereira. I wish I got rid of Olave during my deadline. I'm just not impressed with him or Jamal Williams. He's so touchdown dependent. It's tough to get anything else from him. I agree. These are players that you are sitting this week. And spoiler alert, in my start sit article that I'm writing for full-time fantasy, Brian, these are 2 players that are going to end up on the sit list for you. Chris Olave, not only has he not been doing well as of late, but there are a few other factors that are going into Olave's lack of production. It has to do with the hamstring issue that he suffered this past week. He only played about 50% of the snaps. It's also that Andy Dalton is not throwing the ball a lot. We only saw 17 pass attempts from Andy Dalton this past week. That's going to limit the ceiling and the opportunities for Chris Olave. And then the New Orleans offense altogether has not played well. Alvin Kamara has not played well. Jarvis Landry only had 1 target in this game. Juwan Johnson has been leaned upon pretty heavily in the Saints offense. That's frustrating. So that is a problem for Chris Olave. And then Jamal Williams, yes, he's touchdown dependent, and he's only had no more than 36 yards each of the last 2 weeks on the ground. He's not involved at all in the passing game. He's on pace to set career lows in targets and receptions. And yes, if he doesn't get in the end zone, he's a complete bust for the week, even though he'll get like 13 or 15 rushes in the game. So I agree with you. These are two players that you are considering sitting in week 16. Yosa Dolphin asking about DSTs. What are the top defense to pick up this week? I don't have like the percentages in front of me, but I'll give you my top 10 defenses for this week. My number 1 defense, the Tennessee Titans. Number 2, San Francisco 49ers. 3, the Baltimore Ravens. 4, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 5, the Detroit Lions against Carolina. 6, the Buffalo Bills. 7, the Cleveland Browns. I'm willing to move the Browns up if we get more confirmed weather reports. 8, the Denver Broncos. 9, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The 10, the Kansas City Chiefs. And then the Saints are also in that consideration for the same reason as the Browns. So the Saints are 14 right now, but they may crack the top 10 when it's all said and done. So keep those in mind as you're picking up some defenses this week. Jack, NBA, NFL boy from YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you asking. I want to pick up Darius Slayton, but I have Amari Cooper, Juju, and Christian Watson. Who would I drop? You're dropping Amari Cooper? You're dropping Amari Cooper if you want to play Darius Slayton. This better be a really shallow league. Amari Cooper could really, really hit for you in week 17. But Darius Slayton, I think, has an extremely... If you need to win this week, then I would pick up Darius Slayton for Amari Cooper. That's how I would do it. Okay. Yeah. Dalton Schultz or Darren Waller at tight end. Jack, NBA, NFL boy asks as well. And I have Waller at 6. I have Schultz at 5. So that's how I would go. I would go Dalton Schultz over Darren Waller. Yeah, the Trace McSorley song has 7.6 million views. I told you it went viral a couple years ago. So absolutely check it out. Okay. Kyle is saying y'all pick team 1 or team 2. Team 1 is Fields, Kamara, Dobbins, AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, Knox, Waddle, Denver D versus Mahomes, CMC, Eckler, Chase, T. Higgins, Everett, Saquon, and the Browns defense. I think we're going to go with team 2 here, Kyle. That's how I would probably go. I was trying to be kind when bringing up the Titans secondary. Fair enough. What's up? We juggled between Dobbins, Zeke, Barkley, and K9 last week. Ended up going Dobbins and Barkley. Unfortunately, lost with only 1 touchdown from Lamb. AJ Brown, Metcalf, Barkley, Dobbins playing for 3rd. No, but Dobbins was a good play last week. Okay, Dobbins was a good play last week. Barkley also did well, if I recall correctly. Yes, he finished as the running back 10. He did fall in the end zone, but 18 for 87, 5 receptions for 33 yards and a touchdown. Running back 10, that's pretty good. And then J.K. Dobbins, who I bumped up a lot, was the running back 18. He unfortunately didn't fall in the end zone, but he had 125 rushing yards on only 13 attempts. J.K. Dobbins, okay, let's take a moment and give props where props are due. J.K. Dobbins, 28 rush attempts the last 2 games, 245 rushing yards. 245 rushing yards. Well, let's go, J.K. J.K. LOL. There we go. Darius Slayton or DJ Moore? I'm going DJ Moore. Yeah, I'm going with DJ Moore. Yeah, I think that's pretty comfortable. The matchup against the Lions is there. And Slayton does have a good matchup against the Vikings, but I trust the talent of DJ Moore more. And that's the tiebreaker for me. When I have really, really positive matchups, DJ Moore, better draft capital, better profile, better overall player. So that's how I'm going to roll DJ Moore over Darius Slayton. Thomas is asking, would I worry about stacking AJ Brown and Goddard? I also have Njoku, just picked up Juwan Johnson. Also, if Nick Chubb is out, Kareem Hunt, a must start. Yeah, Kareem Hunt is a must start if Nick Chubb is out. This is what we planned for years. For years. He's a must start. Now, in games that Chubb has missed, like Kareem Hunt hadn't done much with them, but we've seen Kareem Hunt do well even with Nick Chubb in the lineup. So I think it was just falling on the wrong side of variance for that particular one. But, in my rankings for tight ends, to get back to your question, I'm not afraid of stacking with AJ Brown and Goddard. No, I'm not afraid of that. But if I'm ranking my tight ends, which I do, for right now, I mean, it's Wednesday. Lots can change between now and Saturday, the most of the Saturday slates. I have Goddard at 8. I have Njoku at 10. I have Juwan Johnson at 17. So Juwan Johnson is not in that, same tier category conversation. I have Taysom Hill over David Njoku for this New Orleans game. If, in fact, the weather is as bad as we think it's going to be, and it's going to be windy, it's going to be wet, it's going to be cold, then it's going to be a lot of rushing with Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill. I wouldn't be surprised if we'd see 15 to 20 carries for Alvin Kamara. I wouldn't be surprised to see if we'd see double-digit carries for Taysom Hill. And maybe I missed this, but I thought I saw that Myles Garrett was dealing with an injury. Let me check my IDP. Yeah, he's questionable. Myles Garrett is questionable. He's expected to be fine. He was sick, but it's gonna be really, really, really cold. So I don't know if I'm gonna really move Taysom Hill or move Calvin Kamara with that news. But ultimately, I'm not worried about stacking. That's how I would handle it, Thomas. Need to start 2, Miles Sanders, Montgomery, Pacheco, Rachaad White, half PPR. Yeah, let's get the running back rankings out. Let's crank them out. In the meantime, while my screen is loading, if you like my content and you're new to the YouTube channel, make sure you're hitting that red subscribe button. It really does help me grow the YouTube channel. It helps the community, us get to know each other better. And so, I drop a lot of content. For those who are just following for the first time right now or just tuning in, I've posted like over 1,000 videos this past fall. So make sure you hope that the group notifications don't destroy you. But I post a lot of videos. I post anywhere from 100 videos a week or so, because I'll do some of these live streams and I'll chop them up and I'll post those for you to have individual player takes, that if you want to search a player on my channel, you'll be able to see, what does Bradley say about Trace McSorley? What did Bradley say about Gardner Minshew? What did Bradley say about Ezekiel Elliott or Tony Pollard? And you'll be able to search in the past of, these are the players. I've been toying around with this concept of pulling up an Excel spreadsheet and posting it and dating the players, but no, just you search it and find the players that you like. So if you like the content, if this makes you better at fantasy or helps you think more about your fantasy matchups, I really appreciate it if you hit that red subscribe button. It helps me, it helps you. We're all in this together. Okay. Let's see. So that bought me a little bit of time to get my internet loaded. So Gooner Boy, need to start 2, Miles Sanders. So Sanders I have at 14. Montgomery I have at 22. Pacheco I have at 23. And Rachaad White I have at 26. So if I'm starting 2, it's going to be Miles Sanders and David Montgomery. That's where I have them right now, Gooner Boy. Thomas, I'm also probably starting AJ Brown and Metcalf. I need 2 running back 1s, Zeke, Barkley, Kenneth Walker, Dobbins, Hunt, if Chubb is out, Lamb. So you need 2 running backs and a flex. Yeah, so Barkley right now is my running back 6, but I think I might move him down as well. Minnesota does not give up a lot of fantasy points to the running back position. Like Saquon Barkley, yeah, he was the running back 10 last week against Washington. If he doesn't fall in the end zone, we're talking 15 fantasy points, which gets him more of the running back 14 to 17 range. So if Minnesota, like this is going to be a higher scoring game, though. You want to target those types of games. Same thing with Zeke. I'm pretty confident in starting Ezekiel Elliott this week. He's a mid to high running back 2 for me. J.K. Dobbins I have ahead of Ezekiel Elliott, though. Kareem Hunt I haven't placed yet because I want to get more clarity on the Nick Chubb situation. But in this game, like as I mentioned, if we're bumping up Kamara and Taysom Hill because of the rushing volume, Kareem Hunt could get 60% of the snaps, with D'Ernest Johnson getting like 25 to 30%, and then any one of the other running backs to alternate running through. Because if it is that cold and that wet and that nasty out, you have to think that the Browns are going to be rotating through their running backs pretty regularly to keep everybody fresh. So that's a narrative that I could see play out with Hunt. So I would probably put him in the same tier as a ETN, Kenneth Walker, J.K. Dobbins, Ezekiel Elliott. I think that's the right range for him, but I think Barkley is going to be up there. And then as we're monitoring the Kenneth Walker situation because he did not practice these last 2 games with the ankle injury. He did play majority of snaps. He got 12 carries and 5 targets in the San Francisco game coming off of the ankle injury. But he only finishes the running back 31. And as I mentioned earlier, Kansas City is not an easy matchup against running backs. The defensive line for Kansas City is much better than the offensive line of Seattle at run blocking or protecting the run from the run block. So Kenneth Walker is a player that it has a lot of questions still lingering. Like what I would have wanted to see from Kenneth Walker is him getting a limited practice, but he's expected to be full go. But no, he's gotten no practice so far. We haven't gotten that indication. So I am leery about starting Kenneth Walker. That's why I would probably lean J.K. Dobbins as well. Okay. Gooner Boy, is it worth having 2 defenses overplaying the Bucks, overplaying Bucks over Eagles DST this week? I'm not sure what you mean. Worth having 2 defenses. He's overplaying them. So he's done playing the Bucks and done playing the Eagles. Yeah, I would go with the Titans, 49ers, Ravens, Lions, Bills if you're looking for alternative defense special teams. Question is Tua or Trevor this week? Yeah, let's pull up the quarterback rankings. Let's shift gears a little bit. I have Tua at 6. I have Trevor Lawrence at 10 for right now. I think and this is the Thursday game. Things are wonky. Trevor Lawrence on a short week dealing with his toe injury, but he's been top 5 3 of the last 4 weeks. And we've seen 2 other top 5 performances. It's just that when he's faced really tough secondaries, right, he's more than likely not hit. So, right, Philadelphia's secondary, he finishes the quarterback 30 that week. Against Houston's secondary, the quarterback 21. Against Denver's secondary, the quarterback 26. Right? Those are bad. Now, against Dallas was missing a few pieces. He finishes the quarterback 5. But the Jets are a legitimate issue this year. So, yeah, I think that you're starting to over Trevor Lawrence. But I might even move Geno Smith over too. I think it's a lot closer. Let's move Geno Smith. Although, by the way, we're not calling him Geno Smith anymore. We are calling him Pro Bowl quarterback Geno Smith. If you haven't heard the news, Geno Smith was just named to the Pro Bowl. So congratulations, Geno Smith. Happy for you. He was my pick in the preseason to be the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, and it wasn't particularly close. You can even look up on my Twitter. You can go and find it, where not only did I say that Geno Smith was not bad in 2021, but that Geno Smith retweeted that tweet and said, haters going to think it's fake. Let's go. Geno Smith retweeting my tweets. I'm minorly famous in Canada, and I guess well liked by underdog quarterbacks. But Pro Bowl underdog quarterbacks. Let's go, Geno Smith. Love the story. He gets Kansas City in what we hope to be, a shootout type of game. But the Seattle Kansas City game is, where is it? Why is it not showing up for me? Seattle, Kansas City. Come on. Where's my Chiefs logo? There it is. Over under is 49. Yeah, we want to be in on this game. I was about to say, even without Tyler Lockett there, just means a lot more of DK Metcalf, deep cut on Marquise Goodwin. Noah Fant might get some more targets too. So Tua or Trevor this week, I'm going to go Tua. That's who I would go with. Would Josh Allen go over Geno Smith this week? That is how I have it. Josh Allen has been a player that I've been lower-ish on over the last couple weeks. Josh Allen did finish as the quarterback 2. I had him at the quarterback 4 last week, and yeah, he crushed against Miami. But before that, Josh Allen had finished as the quarterback 9 or worse in 3 of the previous 4 games. So in a game where the Buffalo Bills are expected to move the ball really well against the Chicago Bears, you're starting Josh Allen. The number 1 quarterback in fantasy. He's been absolutely crushing it. So Josh Allen, that's how I would go over Geno Smith. But I love that this is a close conversation. That's what I love about this, Jack NBA NFL boy from YouTube. The Manic Levy, Jawan Johnson or Evan Ingram. Yeah, this isn't close. And it would have been closer a few weeks ago. But I'm going to Evan Ingram. And I have Ingram right now as my tight end at 7. Evan Ingram has finished as the tight end 5, 1, and 13 each of the last 3 weeks. He's had double-digit fantasy points during that span, at least 7 targets during that time. And that's what you want to see. You want to see the targets for tight ends. That is more sticky than these touchdowns, even though the touchdowns are really nice. Like 3 touchdowns over the last 3 games for Evan Ingram. Whereas Jawan Johnson, yes, he finished as the tight end 2 against Atlanta, but 4 for 67, 2 touchdowns. You have to remember, against San Francisco, he finished with 0 fantasy points. And then he was injured in week 13 against Tampa. And then he had 4 targets the week before, even though he had a touchdown. Right? Jawan Johnson is a nice little touchdown play. But once again, this Cleveland game is one that we're trying to avoid fantasy pass catchers. So Jawan Johnson is not a tight end that I want to be looking forward to putting into my lineup. Evan Ingram most certainly is. So given that Ingram is a Thursday night play, I would put Ingram into my tight end spot. Cole Kmet or Darren Waller. I have Waller at 6 right now. Cole Kmet all the way down at 16. So not particularly close. Buffalo is one of the toughest matchups against opposing tight ends. And Waller gets the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he should be able to get some space against the Steelers. Waller last week, in his first week back, despite only playing about 50% of the snaps, the tight end 6 on the week, 3 for 48, had the touchdown against New England. And so you're probably firing up Darren Waller in most scenarios. QQ says, I'm out, but appreciate you. I appreciate you, QQ, as well. Okay. There we go. Auburn 5460 from Twitch. I think Goff has a good chance to ball. I hope so. I hope that the Lions do well. Like, you can tell I'm a Packers fan, and I'll root for the Packers. They've had a bad season this season, but my wife is a Lions fan. My in-laws are Lions fans, and they have been miserable for decades. Okay? And I just, it's a good story, and I'm rooting for the GM, Brad Holmes. He's doing things the right way. When there was chatter this past offseason about should the Lions take a quarterback, I said absolutely not. They should not take Malik Willis at the end of the first round or even at the beginning of the first round. I said that would be really, really stupid. You have Jared Goff, who is not just a bridge quarterback, but a decent mid-pack starter in the league. So I've been in on following the Lions and developing their team. I like the Jamison Williams pick. I like the Aiden Hutchinson pick. The Amon-Ra St. Brown pick was one that I came around on. I liked Amon-Ra St. Brown originally. And then when he was balling out, I was like, well, we got to sell high because I anticipate that the Lions are going to be looking elsewhere. But in the offseason, Amon-Ra St. Brown was one of the players that I changed my opinion on this past offseason. So yeah, you might pull up takes from like January and February saying that I said sell Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, like I still like said that, but we got new information from the Detroit Lions in this offseason. They did not sign the Juju Smith-Schusters of the world. Instead, they signed the DJ Charks, the outside perimeter wide receiver. They drafted outside wide receiver Jameson Williams. They kept Amon-Ra's slot role where he plays 60 to 70% of his snaps. They kept that safe. And then during the season, they trade TJ Hawkinson, a middle of the field type of receiver. So you have to like what Amon-Ra St. Brown has done this year. He's been, I think, the wide receiver 6 on the season in fantasy points. So look, anything can happen, but the Goff road home splits are just so stark. I am worried about Jared Goff this week as he travels out of Ford Field. Josh Costin, Baltimore or Titans defense? I'm pretty sure I have the Titans as my number 1 defense. Baltimore is number 3. So I get that they're in the same tier, Josh. If you prefer Baltimore, if you trust them more, so be it. I'm not going to hate you for it. I think they're, both top 3. But if I'm picking one for fantasy points, the Titans defense against Houston. Should I start Kittle or Ingram? I still think it's George Kittle. Okay. I still think it's George Kittle. I have Kittle at 4 against Washington. Yes, Washington is a tough defense against the tight ends. But once again, George Kittle is not your average tight end. And Brock Purdy has played well. And I don't know if y'all saw that like crazy play where he faked it twice to the different running backs and then saw Kittle over the middle. It was actually a play from earlier in the season. One of the college coaches had that play, and then Shanahan saw it and said, I want to try that out with my new rookie quarterback. So that's what he did. And so George Kittle just has a really, really high ceiling. I think is a better play than Evan Ingram. The Jets defense is really tough overall. And if we're looking at like over-unders, usually for me, like tiebreakers go to, if we're in a particular game environment, what is a likely outcome for this team? And the Jags-Jets game, the over-under is 37.5. with the point spread at -1.5 for the Jets. So we're talking like less than 20 points per team. So like on average, less than 2 touchdowns per team, or less than 3 touchdowns. So probably only 2 touchdowns plus maybe a field goal or 2 for each team. And so the Jags, who are 1.5 point dogs in this game in a low scoring affair, you're not excited about Evan Ingram, as an upside play. And let's flip to the San Francisco 49ers versus the Commanders, 38, but the 49ers are 7-point favorites in this game. So while it's while it's a similar over under, the 49ers are just so favored that you could see Kittle getting a touchdown. There's more access based on the projections of team points for Kittle to be involved in this game. Maybe it's mostly Christian McCaffrey. Maybe it's mostly Brandon Ayuk. But if we're taking a shot on like a player in an offense, I think that Kittle is the better one to go after. iPod Touch Superfan also agrees there. And iPod Touch Superfan asks a question: pick 2 for flex: DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, Terry McLaurin, Garrett Wilson, or Rachaad White. There's a lot of questions about Rachaad White, and I don't have him as a top 24 back this week. I have Rachaad White at 26 against Arizona. I have Leonard Fournette at 27. So that's kind of a hedge, telling you you're not confident in these running backs. Looking at the wide receivers the rest of the way, DJ Moore, I have at 25 at wide receiver. Terry McLaurin, I have at 19. Garrett Wilson, I have at 16. So if I'm picking one of the wide receivers, it's going to be Garrett Wilson. And then I believe I have DeAndre Swift over Rachaad White, but I'll just verify that. DeAndre Swift is 25. Yeah, and Rachaad White's 26 as of right now. So if I'm picking one wide receiver, it's going to be Garrett Wilson. If I'm picking one running back, it's going to be DeAndre Swift. But if I'm, it's only two flexes. So I'm going Garrett Wilson and Terry McLaurin. Those are the two picks that I would have. iPod Touch Superfan. All right, for those who are just tuning in, new to the channel, make sure you hit that red subscribe button if you like the content. It really, really helps the channel. I appreciate y'all doing that. Niall China, do I flex Amari, Slayton, Hubbard, or miss this week in half PPR? Amari, Slayton, or Hubbard? Here's the thing. There haven't been a lot of questions about Chuba Hubbard. So let's dive a little deeper into Hubbard. I think it's worth asking because right now, Chuba Hubbard gets Detroit, and it is a tough matchup. He's the consensus running back 41 in half PPR. But over the last couple games, like week 15, he only got 4 carries and 3 targets, but he played 60% of the snaps. D'Onta Foreman only played 30% of the snaps. In the previous week against Seattle, 14 for 74 with a touchdown and 3 receptions for 25 yards, finished at the running back 10. And then in the Tampa Bay game, where surprisingly, Chuba Hubbard was named the starter over D'Onta Foreman, Chuba Hubbard 9 for 63 and a touchdown, 2 receptions for 10 yards, finishing as the running back 18, despite leaving early with an injury. Now, the Lions have been extremely, extremely stingy against running backs. I get it. And this over-under is not one that we're like going out of our way to target. Like, is Chuba Hubbard going to get double-digit touches? Probably. Is he going to do much with them? Probably not. Like, we could see a 9 for 35 game from Chuba Hubbard, 9 for 35, and then 2 receptions for 15 yards. Okay. Are we going to be happy with 6 fantasy points with the possibility of falling in the end zone if he gets a goal line work? Right? That's what we're looking at for Chuba Hubbard right now. Whereas Amari Cooper, the weather is so bad. I'm probably leaning with Darius Slayton as the best play here. The matchup is bad with Hubbard. Amari has the bad weather. I'm probably going to go with Darius Slayton. As crazy as that sounds. Yo Sidolphin 10, who'd you choose, Devonta Smith or Christian Watson? How about ETN or Swift? We'll start with ETN or Swift, and I'm going with ETN there. I have ETN at running back 17 right now. DeAndre Swift, I have at 25. Okay. And then the question is Devonta Smith or Christian Watson. Watson, I have at 17 right now. Devonta Smith, I have at 22. So I'm going Christian Watson there. Mike Evans or Brandon Ayuk. I have Ayuk at 28. Mike Evans, I have at 18. So Mike Evans is where I'm going there. Jerick McKinnon or Cam Akers. And, Akers played pretty well against Green Bay, arguably one of the worst defenses against running backs, but he did well enough. I think he had over 100 total yards. Cam Akers, though, right now gets the Denver Broncos, who have been pretty generous to running backs over the last couple of weeks. And yes, Cam Akers, 100 total yards, 65 rushing, 35 receiving, finishes the running back 23 with 12 fantasy points in half PPR. He's the running back 32 right now, and I think that's too low for Cam Akers, but I'm still starting Jerick McKinnon right now. And Jerick McKinnon is the consensus running back 16. He's finished as the running back 1 each of the last 2 weeks. He's finished as running back 16 in week 13, before those 2 big running back 1 weeks. So I am starting McKinnon over Akers, but like Akers at least is an interesting play. I think he's more of a back end running back 2 than the mid pack running back 3 that he's ranked at right now. Revorg Z from YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. Yo, thanks in advance. 12-man, 3 wide receiver, full PPR pick 3. Chark, Marquise Goodwin, Gallup, Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel, Jamal Williams. Woof. I don't think Jamal Williams is a running back, but or I think he is a running back. I don't think he's a wide receiver. Maybe you said Jameson Williams. Maybe that's what you meant. And then Let's see here. Chark, Goodwin, Gallup, Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel. Look, Michael Gallup has been one that I've had trouble trusting. He gets Philadelphia, which is a really tough matchup. I'm not sure if I want to start Michael Gallup. I have DJ Chark ahead of him. Elijah Moore, I do have behind him, but you have to like what Elijah Moore has done, right? This rain, though, is concerning. Elijah Moore has at least 6 targets in each of the last 3 games, at least 50 receiving yards in 3 of the last 4 games. He hasn't gotten the touchdowns, but wide receiver 54 just seems so low for Elijah Moore. I don't know if I can do that, at least as the consensus rankings. And Marquise Goodwin is a high upside play. Let me see if I can find where Goodwin is. Yeah, Marquise Goodwin right now, wide receiver 41 in the expert consensus rankings. He's had some interesting spike weeks. Like in week 7, Marquise Goodwin, 4 for 67, 2 touchdowns. Week 14, 5 for 95 and a touchdown. But he's had some also like goose egg games. But this will be the first game this year without Tyler Lockett. And you have to think that Marquise Goodwin is going to get 5 to 8 targets in this game. And we've seen 5 games this year where Marquise Goodwin has at least 5 targets. So I'm probably, if I were to have to pick, but 3 of these, Goodwin, Curtis Samuel, and DJ Chark, I believe, are the ones I would go with. The odd man out is Elijah Moore and Michael Gallup. But, man, if we see the weather clearing up for the Jets-Jaguars game tomorrow, oh, man, Elijah Moore is going to be hard for me to sit if that's going to be what we're talking about. Revorg Z, watched a few videos, by the way. Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. I like recording them, getting interaction. It's really helping the channel continue to grow too. So I appreciate your feedback. It's been great. If you have questions too, feel free to drop those as comments on some of the videos. I do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. And then, of course, be like Revorg Z. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button and you like the content and you think this has been helpful, make sure you hit the red button there for subscribe. McKinnon or Zeke this week? I think I have McKinnon over Ezekiel Elliott. I'll just double check that. But yeah, McKinnon is at 16, Ezekiel Elliott at 21 right now. There we go. Gardner Minshew or Zach Wilson? Let's go Gardner, baby. Assuming that Hurts is out, right? Rank the running backs: Walker, Connor, Zeke, Zonovan Knight, J.K. Dobbins. Ooh, baby. Okay. So let's go with James Conner. He's my running back 8 right now on the week. J.K. Dobbins is my running back 19 for the week. Zeke is at 21. Kenneth Walker's at 18, but he is one that I said I'm monitoring Kenneth Walker and his ankle injury. He missed practice. That's majorly concerning for me. And then Zonovan Knight, he's questionable right now. He's coming off the ankle injury. He got a full practice in on Wednesday, which is super encouraging. And he got touches against Detroit, right? 13 rush attempts. But as we mentioned, Detroit is one of those really, really tough defenses against running backs. They don't give up a lot of fantasy points. But before then, Zonovan Knight, at least 77 total yards in all 3 of the games before this Detroit game. So I view him as just outside the top 24 of running backs. So a flex play consideration in those deep leagues. And then, yeah, that's how I have them. I think Zonovan Knight is the last of the running backs. Okay. Calvin Womack from YouTube. Do I start Darius Slayton or Dallas Goedert? Ooh. Okay. Is this tight end premium? I think that's a worthy question. I'm probably, that's a tough one. I'm probably going with Darius Slayton. because we know what snaps he's going to get. He's going to play all of his snaps out wide. He's going to get 5 to 7 targets in the game. It's a plus matchup against Minnesota. Dallas Goedert, we don't know what his snaps are going to be. I'm hopeful. I am a hopeful person for Dallas Goedert that he's going to be able to get the snaps and targets that we want. Like, I'm optimistic about Dallas Goedert. He's my tight end 8 on the week. And the consensus is at 21. But who am I more confident in their role this first week, this week 16, where we need points? We can't afford goose eggs. Darius Slayton is, I think, the better bet right now. Okay, we've got Nan Daddy from YouTube, Joe Burrow or Justin Fields. And Fields is my quarterback 3 right now. So Joe Burrow, not in my top 3. Burrow's at 5. Pick 2, Treylon Burks, Elijah Moore, DJ Chark. We are monitoring the Treylon Burks. Nan Daddy, this decision may be made for you because right now, Treylon Burks, he did practice on Wednesday, but he hasn't been fully cleared from the concussion protocol. He's gotten in full practices, so you have to like this, but it's also you're downgrading Chig Okonkwo this week. If we find out that Treylon Burks is full go and all the reports are saying he's going to play full complement of snaps, right? In the game he played first week back, Treylon Burks got 6 targets against the Denver Broncos. And he's had 6 targets in every game except for, that Philadelphia game, since he came back from the injury. 6 targets in every game except the Philadelphia game where he left because of the concussion. So if I'm playing a wide receiver this week and we hear that Treylon Burks is full go, we're playing Treylon Burks this week. The consensus right now is wide receiver 75. I want to be more bullish than that on Treylon Burks. I think he gets into that wide receiver 3 conversation, which bumps him ahead of Elijah Moore and DJ Chark. I'm also probably firing up DJ Chark as well. Before this New York Jets game, DJ Chark, 5, 6, and 7 targets. 2 of those games with at least 94 receiving yards. 2 of those games with at least 1 touchdown. He finished as the wide receiver 23 and wide receiver 5 during that span. Carolina, as we mentioned, not as plus of a matchup as Jacksonville or Minnesota. But if I were to pick 2, it would be Burks and DJ Chark. TJ Hockenson or George Kittle. Let's get those tight end rankings pulled up. Let's see here. TJ Hockenson is my tight end 3. Kittle is my tight end 4. So it's really, really close. I think I lean Hockenson due to the target share. And the Washington is a tough defense against tight ends. Matt Chen, pick 3. 2 wide receivers in a flex. Marquise Brown, DJ Chark, Jahan Dotson, KJ Osborne, Cam Akers. Oh my gosh, we've got so many. Let me just pick out a couple of my favorites. I like Cam Akers, and I like Jahan Dotson, and I like Antonio Gibson. But it's 2 wide receivers. So we need, I like Dotson, and I like the wide receivers. Let's go Treylon Burks, first week back. Jahan Dotson and Burks, the first round rookie wide receivers. And if we're picking 1 running back, we're going to go with Cam Akers. That's how I will go with it. Matt Chen. Best of luck with that. There's a lot of options there. Good naughty evening. What are we doing with Mark Andrews if Huntley and Lamar are out? Are we starting Knox over him? Mark Andrews, we are real worried. Like, are we going to move Mark Andrews to like tight end 9? I think so. Like, I think that he's not a top 5 tight end right now. Okay. And so that does adjust my rankings a little bit, but this is majorly concerning. I think Huntley is going to play. I think that's the expectation, but Lamar is not expected to play in this game. At least that's how it's trending. I, as a fantasy manager, am not expecting Lamar Jackson to play. I'm still not comfortable playing Mark Andrews Dawson Knox, though, I think is just a little too far. Even though Dawson Knox has played well as of late, he's the consensus tight end 11 ECR, and he has over those last 5 games 3 top 6 tight end performances, and he's had at least 7 targets and at least 40 receiving yards and a touchdown in each of the last 2 games. Chicago is very interesting, so I could see the argument. Why not? Let's Chicago is a bad defense. Mark Andrews, we don't like what Huntley's doing with that offense. Let's get a little spicy here. Let's move Dawson Knox over Mark Andrews. I'm here for it. Nan Daddy Philly D or Tampa Bay D. Thanks, fam. Happy holidays. Yeah, happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everybody. If that's what you celebrate. If you don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays to you too. If you do celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to y'all. Philly D, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. You're not going to like this. At DST 25 against Dallas. Yikes. Tampa Bay, I have it DST 4. So that's where I'm at right now. Okay. Yeah, it's clearly Tampa Bay. Okay. All right, we're going to rapid fire this. Wow, we've got a lot of questions. I'm going to rapid fire this for the sake of me because I'm going to pass out here in a second. Thanks for the breakdown. I missed who you'd play. Barkley, Zeke, Dobbins, Hunt. I think I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley here if I'm picking one of those. Playing Metcalf and A.J. Brown. 2 running backs and 1 flex. So Barkley and Dobbins are who I would go with, and then Lamb as well. Okay, yeah, and PPR. Who would I take a dart throw on? DJ Chark, Jahan Dotson, Richie James, Jahan Dotson. That's who I would go with, Gennady. I'm in the semifinals, need points from tight ends. Taysom Hill, Darren Waller, half point. I have Waller ahead of Taysom Hill, but I like the upside of Taysom Hill. I think he is very, very interesting, but I'm still going Darren Waller over Taysom Hill. Yeah, there we go. Mikey Woe, start 2 flex, Olave, DPJ, McLaurin, Garrett Wilson, Swift, Darius Slayton, Rashad White, Garrett Wilson, and Terry McLaurin. That's who I'm going with, Mikey Woe. Appreciate you jumping in from Twitch. Jack, NBA, NFL boy. Thanks. You helped me in fantasy. I hope to win my semifinals. Yes, let's go. Appreciate you. Beat my dad last week. That's funny. It's always good to have the family rivalries. Had to drop Lockett. Oh, I know. I'm rooting for you. Hope all is going to go well for you. Pick one defense: Baltimore, Dallas, or Baltimore versus well, okay, let's see. So Baltimore is my 3rd defense. Dallas is my 19th defense. And the Atlanta Falcons are at 27. So if I'm picking one, it's going to be Baltimore for sure. Kenneth Walker or J.K. Dobbins. Okay, I'm pretty sure I had put J.K. Dobbins right behind Walker, but as I said, we're monitoring this situation. I'm willing to move Walker significantly down if he misses another practice, or even heck, if he's limited. I would only want to see Kenneth Walker get a full practice in. That's how I'm doing it. Okay. Browns or Vikings defense. Yeah, let's go pull up the DSTs again. Man, this has been a DST heavy questions. So yeah, I mean, a lot is riding on this. Cleveland Browns, I have at 7. The Minnesota Vikings, I have at 18. So pretty clearly the Browns right now. Drunk Squidward, appreciate you jumping in from YouTube. Moss, not miss. Yeah, I'm trying to find reasons to not play Zach Moss this week. I think that his volume was inflated by the game script. I'm not here for it. Yeah, I'm starting Slayton over Moss. Sorry, Revorg. Start 2 half PPR: Ayuk, Watson, Pittman, or Kirk. I'm pretty bullish on Christian Watson this week. I have Watson at wide receiver 17. Pittman, I have at 23. Christian Kirk, I have at 20. And Ayuk, I have at 28. So I think that means it's Watson and Christian Kirk. Start 2. Trevor Lawrence versus Daniel Jones. Concerned about the weather. Jones is a favorable matchup against Minnesota. Yeah, I think we're monitoring the weather. The weather has been hit or miss, right? sometimes the weather has been exactly what we predicted and sometimes it's not. So I'd go up until game time. And if it is really that bad of weather, Daniel Jones will be the play. But I think if it's like mild or whatever, even if it's mild, I would need clear skies to feel good about Trevor Lawrence. Let's go Daniel Jones here for right now. I think I'm going to have to update my rankings to reflect that change of opinion. But Ian, thanks for asking. I appreciate you. DPJ, Thielen, B-Rob, PPR, start one. Thanks. Yeah, so we're moving Daniel Jones over Trevor Lawrence. There we go. DPJ, Thielen, or Brian Robinson in full PPR. Oh, man. All right. I'm going to have to translate my rankings real quick. In full PPR, we're going to go to flex. I have Thielen at 62, Peoples-Jones at 86, and Robinson at 83. So I think it's going to be Thielen for us here. And then Jahan Dotson or Josh Palmer. I like Dotson. I like Dotson a lot. And the Colts don't give up a lot of fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So give me Jahan Dotson, even a tough matchup against San Francisco. Yeah, I'd rather have Jahan Dotson. Just better talent. Just a better talent. Question from Jack NBA NFL boy. Could Christian Watson be good this week after a bad week? Absolutely. Absolutely. Missed 2 touchdowns. There we go. Got McKinnon and Kamara right now. Should I switch Alvin out for Akers? I don't think I would get that spicy. Alvin Kamara is probably going to get a lot of volume, and it's a good matchup against the Browns. So there we go. That's what I would do. I would keep Alvin Kamara in the lineup. Bass or Brett Maher? Let's go. We got some kicker questions. I love it. Let's go to the kicker rankings. Let's see. Bass is at kicker 3 for me this week, and Maher is at kicker 9. So Bass, there we go, is who I would go with. Yeah, for sure. You want to be starting Christian Watson. Should I start Christian Kirk against the Jets? I mean, Kirk is my wide receiver 20, so there are 19 other options. There we go. Freiermuth or Kmet rest of season? I'm really worried about Freiermuth. I think Kmet has a bad game this week, but Kmet has a really interesting matchup in week 17. So probably Kmet rest of season. Yeah, I want those weeks, that week 17 against Detroit. Freiermuth, Dulcich, or Okonkwo this week, half PPR. Okonkwo, we got to move down. I have Dulcich ahead of him, and Freiermuth I had ahead as well. So I'm probably going to go with Freiermuth, but I could see, if Courtland Sutton is out again, that we start Dulcich over Freiermuth. Juwan Johnson or Knox? We're going to go with Dawson Knox. Which sounds better? Ooh, man. Okay. Fields, McKinnon, Kamara, Judy, Jefferson, Johnson, Gold, Broncos, or Herbert, Akers, Kamara, Ayuk, Jefferson, Higbee, Prater, Packers. I think I like the first one better. Manic Levy. Okay. I have Andrews still looking for a solid backup. If I decide to bench him in the championship, have Muth now, but nerves start him after last week's goose egg. I get it. Yeah. The goose eggs tilt us for sure. For sure. Chris asking real quick, start Lawrence or Minshew with Hurts. Leaning Lawrence, but the weather and matchup have me a bit anxious. Man, oh man, we are like trying to find ways to bench Trevor Lawrence after he's given us such fantasy gold, right? Look, I think I'm keeping Lawrence over Gardner Minshew, even though I do like Minshew as a streaming option. Genova, DST, Cleveland, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, or Philadelphia. I have Cleveland at 7. Kansas City, I have at 10. Tampa Bay, I have at 4. So Tampa Bay is first out of these 4. And then Philadelphia is really, really low this week at 25. Deion Jackson, Moss P, Ryan, Jeff Wilson, or Hubbard this week, half PPR. I think we go Deion Jackson. Like Deion Jackson not getting talked about enough, and yet he is the PPR, half PPR back. Zach Moss was just we need to just grind away carries. We don't want to lose out on a valuable Deion Jackson touch. So he's more dynamic. Zach Moss is more like Zach moves like Moss, like really slowly, grows like some moss. So I'm not in on Zach Moss at all. P. Ryan is still the backup. Jeff Wilson, I'm not interested in. Hubbard is outside my top 36 right now. Deion Jackson, give me that. And then looks like we got our last question of the night, unless we get some Hail Marys, because we're over an hour and a half. I'm grateful to be doing them, but I'm going to keel over here in a second. Kickers, Myers, McLaughlin, or Badgley. Badgley, I have at 8. Myers, I have at 12. And McLaughlin, I have 13. So we're going to go with Badgley this week. Okay, Gennady wants to know, tell me more about Deion Jackson. Are we going to go Deion over Rashad this week? You know what? Let's get a little spicy. Let's say yes, because Deion Jackson, right? Let's look at what Deion Jackson did. Deion Jackson, right? When he's been given double-digit carries, he finishes the running back 29 against Denver back in week 5. He finishes the running back 1 against Jacksonville. He finished as the running back 37 against New England. That was a tough matchup. We all have to admit that was tough. And then finishes the running back 29 against Minnesota. He gets the Chargers, and the Chargers give up a lot of fantasy points to running backs. I think the running back 43 is just way too low for Deion Jackson. I think he's the running back I want in this Indianapolis Colts offense. Nick Foles is going to be the starting quarterback for the Colts. If you missed that announcement today, Matt Ryan benched yet again. So Deion Jackson, I think we should go over Rachaad White this week, just in what we want to see out of Deion Jackson. Plus, Deion Jackson is a capable pass catcher. There are 3 games where he's had 4 targets or more in just a limited amount of snaps. So let's go Deion Jackson. Let's fire him up. Let's get some confidence. Get him off your waiver wire. Start him as a possible flex option, and that's going to be it for tonight. If y'all really like the content, I appreciate you checking out hitting that subscribe button. It really helps the channel. Thank you so much. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I'm sure I'll be on later on, so check it out. Turn on your notifications as long as it doesn't drive you crazy, the amount that I post. But until next time, everyone, good luck in the fantasy football streets. Good luck with your Thursday night, and good luck with your start-sit-em questions and start-em decisions.
I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bill, I'm the best till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bill, I'm the best till into the next world. Guess I got next still.